You know, something I was confused about for the longest time was the way people used the word woke. Now, how I've been using it, or my initial thought was that woke was being aware of the truth behind this world, seeing through the smoke and mirrors created by the government, etc. You know, keeping both eyes open. So when people started calling these athletes and celebrities and actors woke, and apparently exercising quote-unquote wokeness, I think that's what it's called, I was confused. I was like, what? Woke? If anything, these people are the complete opposite. Most of them are sheep or puppets. But apparently being woke has a new definition, which is the art of being pretentious, especially when it comes to social issues. And I was like, oh, that makes a lot more sense, and I think the definition is spot on. But it's slightly confusing because it takes away from actually being woke to things going on in the world. It kinda acts as controlled opposition, I guess. Like the word woke is now associated with this politically correct fraudulent virtue signaling, and now the people who are actually woke gotta go find something else. It's also kind of like how the CIA coined the term conspiracy theorists to throw off actual conspiracies, so now people dismiss it when they hear the term. You know, controlled opposition. So anyways, this whole fake woke culture, I should start saying, is starting to become a lot more visible. It's part of the reason why I stopped watching the NBA, and why I have a disliking towards the mainstream culture, or pop culture if you will, especially in regard to social issues. And I'm sure it's why the NBA ratings have fallen so hard this year, because their fake virtue signaling, politically correct approach on social issues is turning people off. And I know some people were like, oh, how noble of the NBA to prioritize social justice over money. That's not what they're doing, Sherlock. And if you actually believe that for a second, you're either 11 or deficient in mental capacities. Compare the NBA to the UFC right now. Look at the empty ass arenas in NBA games, and look at the packed houses the UFC brings. And no, it's not because the NBA is trying to be more careful, because they already opened arenas in many states, it's just no one's buying the tickets. I mean, the numbers don't lie, they're down 40 to 45% on ABC, which is one of their biggest networks. And the NBA is also down 40% on TNT and 20% on ESPN, which is astounding. And here's why. No one wants a guy with a 6 step back crossover into a fadeaway pander and virtue signal and spout PC doctrines on far left agendas. Most people who tune in to watch sports, although they're exercising escapism, are tuning in to get away from politics and that other stuff. And speaking of politically correct fake pandering virtue signalers, Lebron James seems to be the front runner of this. Now don't get me wrong, he's a great basketball player, obviously. The best player at slashing to the rim and probably the greatest small forward to ever play, with also the highest passing IQ, but I'm about to go in on him a bit. And before anyone makes the argument, oh but he's done a lot of good, he helped fund and create a school. Listen, two things aren't mutually exclusive. You can be a billionaire and toss 100 grand to the side, and still be a fake, hypocritical, pandering, virtue signaling POS. I'm sorry, if you're a fan of his or worship this guy for whatever reason, I'm gonna hit you with some hard truth. And if you are a fan of his, you can feel free to click off, cause I'm about to say a lot of things. And I'm not trying to have any LaQueen James fans in their feelings over the truth. I'm sorry, but this guy is literally the definition of a fake, pandering, politically correct virtue signaler. Imagine being a selective social activist, because that's what both him and the NBA both are. The entire NBA quite literally gets on its knees and bends over for China. That whole Hong Kong situation exposed the NBA for their fake, pandering, politically correct, collective ass-kissing, brown-nosing, crotch-sniffing, virtue signaling selves. You can't be a selective social activist, there's a word for that, and it's hypocrite. Them talking about freedom and equality is equivalent to or means as much as those do-nothing useless virtue signaling quotes they put on their jerseys. Which is not a damn thing but waste polyester and cotton. Those shirts mean as much as toilet paper when it's coming from a hypocritical organization. I remember the Houston Rockets general manager Daryl Morey saying fight for freedom and stand with Hong Kong along with other players, and then China basically tells the NBA to shut up about their affairs. And then you have the NBA go and ban the saying free Hong Kong, and then you have Captain Social Justice Lebron James say, oh there's some things you should stay silent on, and that Daryl Morey was uneducated, and him speaking on this, many people could have been harmed financially. His words and not mine. And the quote unquote people he's referring to is obviously the NBA, because China is their biggest partner, in which NBA makes billions from China. That's why if you go anywhere in China, you'll see hundreds of thousands of people wearing NBA jerseys, even more than in the States. That's why every summer the NBA does these little PR stunts with NBA stars in China, because they understand that jersey sales go crazy over there. In other words, China is the NBA's biggest market. And then you have Mr. Hypocritical Captain Social Justice LeBron James saying, the day we become silent on human and social justice issues is the day our lives end. Like, hello, how stupid are you? But then he goes around and says some things you should stay quiet on because people can be hurt financially, and then condemned Morey for saying free Hong Kong. It's obvious to anyone with two eyes and a connected brainstem the Hong Kong situation was a clear human rights violation. And after Morey spoke out in support of Hong Kong, China halted the broadcast of NBA games in their country. And then the NBA goes and grovels and apologizes, and starts kicking out Hong Kong protesters out of their games. Imagine having millions and still being a sellout. If you're broke selling out, that's somewhat more understandable, but being a billionaire, that's tough. LeBron bends over for China. And why, you might ask? Because like I said before, he's made his millions off the backs of Chinese slave laborers in sweatshops back in China. He's a hypocrite, and he only wants to be an activist when it's trending and convenient. But when money is involved, he goes quiet. And also, this guy wants to sit around and act like an intellectual. He was holding up the Malcolm X autobiography in front of the media, talking about being educated, and then it turns out the guy didn't even read the book, Virtue Signaling and Pandering once again. As a matter of fact, I'll play the clip right now. He literally sounds exactly like me when the teacher asked me to summarize the reading assignment from last night that I didn't do. Imagine using a book of a really wise and meaningful person as a prop to look better in the public eye. That tells you everything you need to know. It's literally the most blatant example of virtue signaling. And the irony is that people who quote and use Malcolm X for their narratives are exactly the people Malcolm X spoke out against. But of course they don't know that because they just like pretending to be woke. He should be ashamed when he said he's afraid of being a black person in America because of cops. Now obviously police brutality and racism is awful. But this guy saying he's afraid of cops is hilarious when he and many other stars in the NBA hire police as private security guards everywhere they go and around their homes, so that he can sleep in his silk pajamas in his mansions that was paid for by slave laborers in China, and the fact that he puts a ball in a basket. And by the way, this isn't whataboutism. It's blatant hypocrisy and virtue signaling from a sellout organization. I can't stand how fake this guy is. Every team he's been on, he trades away half his team and fires his coach and pretends like, oh, I'm just a player, I'm not the GM, I don't make decisions, I'm just a player. Shut your ass up. The league and the NBA is literally built around you for you to win 6 championships by the end of your career for you to be called the GOAT. ESPN, Fox, SportsCenter is literally just a circle jerk to keep pushing LeBron. But listening to this guy pander and virtue signal is so tiresome, especially when he's being fake and he refers to himself as King James and the Chosen One. The only thing he's the king of is being a drama queen on the basketball court and being the king of profiting off slave laborers. He's also the king of being a hypocritical virtue signaler. So I guess in that sense you can call him King James. Although there's a large amount of people who buy into this indoctrination and narrative that's being pushed by this fake woke society, culture, whatever you want to call it, there's also a large amount of people that are starting to see through the smoke. It's why no one gave a shit about things like the Oscars. This year, apparently they lost 60% of viewership from last year for the lowest record viewership of all time. But it's no secret why. People see through the BS, and with the political climate the way it is, people are also calling out the virtue signaling fake wokeness. And besides, actors are literally the epitome of fake, pretentious, politically correct virtue signalers, whose opinions literally mean less than dirt. And apparently they moved all the homeless away from the area to set up a fence to hold the event for these people that really don't do shit to walk around on a red carpet in $100,000 dresses and suits, so that they can pretend and feel like they're important for one day of the year. You read and memorize lines that the ugly people wrote for you. You're not special. They literally made the homeless leave the area so that they can set up an event to give awards to a movie about homelessness. Like, hello, are you stupid? How far gone can you be? I hope things like the Oscars die, because no one cares, and at the way the ratings are going, it will. People have things to do rather than watch people play pretend as if they're some sort of higher level human being. And that's why the event was dead. So going back to this weird, fake, woke culture shift, it's hard to understand the motives behind it. To be honest, jokes aside, it really just feels like groups of people that just want something to complain about. They're discontent or feel alone in some way and want to find these micro things for the world to adhere to their needs using social media. And when you get on social media, you can find those like-minded individuals. And then it becomes a trend. And when that trend becomes big enough, people have to start adhering to a bunch of nonsense. And that trend is almost always aligned with this fake, politically correct, pandering, virtue signaling, we are the world nonsense type of narrative. Anyways, I don't know, just my thoughts on fake woke culture or society, whatever you want to call it. Didn't have much of a direction on this one, just thoughts. Anyways, if you liked the vid, leave a like, comment, or sub. And with that said, make sure you guys stay true. Talk to you guys real soon. Peace.